Listen to me, this is not just another video. This is a warning, a wake-up call, a line in the sand. Because right now there is something inside you, quietly destroying your life. Not your enemies, not your past, not your circumstances, your mind. Negativity, it doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up when you're tired, when you're alone, when things don't go your way. It tells you when you're not good enough. You can't do this, it's too late. And if you don't fight it, if you don't destroy it, it will destroy you. You see, most people don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because they lost the battle in their mind. Before they even tried, they quit. Before they even started, they doubted. Before they even moved, they believed the lie. Let me tell you something real. Negativity is a liar. It will make you forget who you are. It will make you ignore your potential. It will make you settle for less when you were born for more. You wake up and instead of purpose, you feel pressure. Instead of vision, you feel confusion. Instead of action, you feel fear. And slowly, day by day, you start becoming someone you don't even recognize. That's how it works. Not in one big moment, but in small, repeated thoughts. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not ready. But what if I fail? And just like that, another day is gone. Another opportunity is missed. Another version of you dies. But today that ends. Right here, right now. Because you didn't come this far to be controlled by your thoughts. You didn't survive everything you've been through just to be defeated by negativity. You are stronger than that. But strength is a choice. And today you're going to make that choice. You're going to stop listening to that weak voice in your head. You're going to stop feeding the fear, the doubt, the excuses. Because whatever you feed grows. You feed negativity, it takes over your life. You feed discipline, you take control. This is not about motivation, this is about war. A war between who you are and who you could become. And right now, negativity is winning. Not because it's stronger, but because you're letting it speak without a fight. That ends today. From this moment on, you question every negative thought. You challenge every doubt. You replace every excuse with action. You don't wait to feel ready. You move anyway. You don't wait for confidence, you build it. You don't wait for the perfect moment, you create it. Because winners don't think differently by accident. They train their mind daily, relentlessly, without excuses. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to take control of your thoughts before they take control of you. Because listen carefully, your mind is either your greatest weapon or your biggest enemy. There is no in between. And if you don't discipline it, it will destroy your dreams silently, slowly, completely. But if you master it, if you control it, if you dominate it, there is nothing in this world that can stop you. So today, you make a decision, not a wish, not a hope, a decision. That no matter how you feel, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times you fall, you will not let negativity win. You will fight, you will rise, you will move because your life depends on it. And let me remind you, time is not waiting. Opportunities are not waiting. Your future is not waiting, so why are you? Stop waiting, stop doubting, stop hesitating, and start becoming the person you were meant to be. This is your moment, not tomorrow, not next week, right now. Destroy negativity before it destroys you. Let me ask you something. How many dreams have you buried because of one negative thought? Not because you couldn't do it, but because you believed you couldn't. Leads, how dangerous it is. Negativity doesn't just slow you down, it rewrites your identity. You start saying things like, that's just how I am. I've always been like this. I'm not built for success. No, you weren't born that way. You were programmed that way. Programmed by failure, programmed by rejection, programmed by people who didn't see your value. And instead of fighting back, you accepted it. You let their limits become your limits. But hear me clearly, just because something feels true does not mean it is true. Your mind can lie to you. Every single day, it can take one failure and turn it into a lifetime belief. You fail once, and your mind says, you see, you're not good enough. But that's not truth, that's fear. And fear is a storyteller. It tells you stories about why you shouldn't try, why you might fail, why you might get hurt. And if you listen long enough, you start living inside those stories instead of reality. And reality is this: you are capable of more than you've ever proven, but you'll never see it if you keep believing the wrong story. So today we change the story. You are not behind. You are not broken, you are not finished. You are being tested, and every test is building something inside you. Strength, patience, discipline. But negativity tries to make you quit the test early. It tells you, this is too hard, this isn't working, just give up. But what if that moment, the exact moment, is where everything was about to change? What if the breakthrough was one more step away and you quit? That's what negativity does. It steals your future by controlling your present. It makes temporary pain feel permanent. But pain is not permanent. Struggle is not permanent. This moment is not permanent. But quitting, that can be permanent. And you've come too far to make a permanent decision based on a temporary feeling. So what do? You stop trusting your emotions. When they're trying to weaken you, you don't move based on how you feel. You move based on who you want to become. Because the truth is, you won't always feel motivated. You won't always feel confident. You won't always feel ready. But you can always choose to act. And every time you act, despite the doubt, despite the fear, despite the negativity, you win. Not a big win, not a visible win, but a powerful one. Because you're training your mind to obey you. And once your mind obeys you, your life changes. You stop overthinking. You stop hesitating. You stop holding yourself back. And you start moving decisively, confidently, relentlessly. That's when people start asking, well, what changed? But they don't see the truth. The truth is, you stopped listening to the voice that was holding you back. You stopped negotiating with negativity. You didn't wait for it to disappear. You overpowered it. Because listen, negativity doesn't go away on its own. You don't eat by waiting months. You don't grow by avoiding. You grow by confronting. You face it. You challenge it. You replace it. Every negative thought must be answered. I can't do this. Yes, you can. I'm not ready. You'll never be. Start anyway. What if I fail? What if I fail? What if you don't? That's how you fight. Not by ignoring negativity, but by dominating it. And the more you do it, the stronger you become. Until one day that voice that used to control you becomes weak. And your voice becomes powerful. That's the shift. That's when you realize you were never stuck. You were just thinking like someone who was. And now you think like a winner. And winners do not negotiate with doubt. They move, they act, they rise, no matter what. So from this moment on, you make a new rule. You don't believe every thought. You question it. You challenge it. You take control of it. Because your life depends on the thoughts you allow to stay. And you're done letting negativity live rent-free in your mind. Must stay in your mind. You're done being controlled. You're done being limited. You're done playing small. Now you take your power back. And this time you don't let go. Now listen carefully, because this is where most people break. Not at the beginning, not when things are easy, but in the middle. When the excitement fades, when the results are slow, when nobody is clapping for you, that's where negativity gets louder. It starts asking questions like, is this even worth it? Oh, why am I doing this? Maybe this isn't for me. And if you're not disciplined, you'll listen. You'll slow down, you'll hesitate, you'll stop. Not because you can't continue, but because your emotions took control. That's why discipline is everything. Motivation will get you started, but discipline will carry you through the dark. And let me be real with you, the dark is coming. There will be days you don't feel like doing anything. Days where everything feels heavy. Days where your mind is full of doubt. And on those days, negativity will feel real. It will feel justified. But those are the most important days, because what you do on those days defines who you become. Anyone can work when they feel good. Anyone can push when they're motivated. But champions, they move when it's hard. They show up when they're tired. Show up when they're tired. They act when they don't feel like it. That's the difference. And that's what you need to build. Not just a strong body, not just big dreams, but a disciplined mind. A mind that says, I don't care how I feel. I'm doing it anyway. Because feelings are temporary. But results, those stay. Right now, you've been letting your feelings decide your future. If you feel good, you work. If you feel bad, you stop. And that's why you're stuck. Because success doesn't care how you feel. It responds to action. Consistent, relentless, uncomfortable action. So if you want to destroy negativity, you don't wait to feel better. You move, even when your mind says no, even when your body feels tired, even when everything inside you wants to quit. You move. Because every time you do, you weaken negativity. You prove to yourself that it doesn't control you anymore. And that builds something powerful, confidence. Real confidence. Not the kind you fake, not the kind you talk about, the kind you earn. By doing what you said you would do, even when it's hard. That's how you rebuild yourself. Because let's be honest, negativity didn't just appear, it was built over time, from broken promises, from missed opportunities, from moments where you gave up. And your mind remembers that. It says, oh, why try again? You'll just fail. But today, you change that pattern. Today, you keep your word to yourself. No matter how small the action is, you do it. You said you'd wake up early, you wake up. You said you'd work out, you move. You said you'd focus, you eliminate distractions. You don't negotiate. Because every time you follow through, you send a message to your mind. I'm not that person anymore. And slowly, that negative identity starts to die. And a new one starts to rise. Stronger, sharper, more disciplined. That's how transformation happens. Not in one big moment, but in daily decisions. Hard decisions, uncomfortable decisions. The kind of decisions most people avoid. And that's why most people stay the same. But not you. You're done being average. You're done being controlled. You're done letting negativity decide your life. Now you operate differently. You don't wait for motivation. You create momentum. You don't avoid pain, you use it. Because pain is not your enemy. Pain is your teacher. It shows you where you need to grow. It forces you to adapt. It builds resilience. But negativity tries to make you run from it. It tells you, oh, this hurts too much. You stop now. You take it easy. But if you listen, you stay weak, and weakness will cost you everything. So instead, you lean into the discomfort. You embrace the struggle. You accept the process. Because you understand something most people don't, growth is supposed to be hard. If it was easy, everyone would be great. But they're not. Because they quit when it gets uncomfortable. You won't. You can't afford to. Because your future is built in these moments. Right here, right now, in the struggle, in the discipline, in the decision to keep going, when everything inside you says stop, that's where you become dangerous. Not to others, but to your old self, the weak version, the doubtful version, the negative version. You destroy that version piece by piece, day by day, action by action, until one day you look in the mirror and you don't recognize yourself anymore. Not because you lost who you were, but because you finally became who you were meant to be. And at that point, negativity has no power over you, because you've proven through action, through discipline, through pain, that you are in control. And once you reach that level, there's no going back. Now this is where everything changes. Because up to this point, you've been fighting negativity. You've been resisting it. You've been pushing against it. But now you're about to outgrow it. You see, the goal is not just to silence negative thoughts. The goal is to become someone they no longer affect. That's the shift. Because as long as you're reacting to negativity, it still has power. But when you evolve, when you level up your mindset, when you change your identity, negativity becomes irrelevant. It's like noise in the background. You hear it, but it doesn't move you. And that's where you need to go. Because right now, some of you are still too emotionally attached to your thoughts. A negative thought comes in, and you believe it. A doubt appears, and you accept it. A fear shows up, and you stop. But what if you didn't react? What if you observed it and kept moving? That's power. Because thoughts are not commands, they're suggestions, and you don't have to accept every suggestion. You choose which thoughts stay and which ones go. That's control. That's mastery. And once you understand that, everything changes. Because now you're not the victim of your mind. You're the leader. You're in charge. And leaders do not follow fear. They don't bow to doubt. They don't surrender to negativity. They move with purpose, with clarity, with authority. And that's who you're becoming. Not the old version of you that hesitated, that overthought, that doubted every move. That version is gone. You don't think like that anymore. Now, you think differently. You think, how do I grow from this? What can I learn from this? What action can I take right now? That's a different mindset. That's a winning mindset. Because winners don't waste time complaining, blaming, overthinking. They focus, they execute, they adapt. And that's exactly what you're going to do. From now on, you don't give negativity attention. You don't sit there analyzing your fears for hours. You don't replay your failures in your mind. You don't entertain doubt. You cut it off immediately and you replace it with action. Because action destroys overthinking. Action silences doubt. Action builds confidence. That's the formula. Not thinking more, not waiting longer, moving relentlessly. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. You don't need more time. You don't need more motivation. You don't need perfect conditions. You need to move. Right now, because the longer you wait, the stronger negativity becomes. It feeds on delay. It grows in hesitation. It lives in inaction. So starve it. Starve it with discipline. Starve it with action. Starve it with consistency until it has nothing, until it disappears. And in its place, something powerful rises. Certainty. You start knowing, I can do this. I will figure it out. I don't quit. That's not arrogance. That's earned belief. And once you have that, you become unstoppable. Not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger. You stop fearing challenges. You stop avoiding pressure. You stop running from discomfort. You walk into it with confidence, with focus, with control. Because you understand something now, everything you want is on the other side of resistance, and negativity is just resistance in disguise. So instead of avoiding it, you break through it again and again and again until nothing can hold you back. This is how you separate yourself. This is how you rise above average. People listen to their feelings. Great people lead their feelings. And from this moment on, you lead no matter what. You don't stop when it's hard. You don't quit when it's uncomfortable. You don't fold when pressure hits. You rise every single time because that's who you are now. Disciplined, focused, unstoppable. And once you lock into that identity, everything in your life starts to shift. Your habits improve. Your mindset sharpens. Your energy changes. People notice it. Opportunities come. Doors open, not by luck, but because you became someone ready for them. And it all started with one decision: to destroy negativity before it destroyed you. And now there's no going back. Because you've seen the truth. You've felt the shift. You've taken control. And once a person takes control of their mind, they take control of their life. So keep going. Keep pushing. Keep rising. Because this version of you, this focused, disciplined, relentless version of you is just getting started. Let me take you somewhere real. A place you don't talk about, a place you don't show people. That moment when you were alone, no noise, no distractions, no one around. Just you and your thoughts. And in that moment, negativity was loud, louder than ever. It reminded you of everything that went wrong. Every failure, every rejection, every time you tried and it didn't work, and it whispered, see, this is who you are. That moment, right there, that's where most people lose. Not in public, not in front of others, but in private, because that's where the real battle happens. And maybe you've been there. Maybe you felt like giving up. Maybe you questioned everything. Maybe you thought, well, what's the point? And no one knew. You smiled outside, but inside you were fighting doubt, fighting fear, fighting the urge to quit. And let me tell you something, that moment was not your weakness. That was your test, because pressure reveals truth. It shows you who you really are. And in that moment, you had two choices: break or build. And maybe you broke a little. Maybe you slowed down. Maybe you doubted yourself, but you didn't disappear. You're still here, and that means something. That means there's still fight in you. Because if you were truly done, you wouldn't even be listening to this. So don't ignore that. Don't underestimate that. That fire inside you, even if it's small right now, is still alive, and all it needs is to be fed. Not with comfort, not with excuses, but with action. Because action turns pain into power. Every time you move forward, despite how you feel, you take that pain and you convert it into strength, into discipline, into growth. That's how this works. Your struggle is not there to stop you. It's there to shape you. But negativity tries to twist that. No. It tells you, this is too much. You can't handle this. Just quit. But what if this is exactly what you need? What if this pressure is building the version of you that can handle success? Because listen, success is heavy. Responsibility is heavy. Growth is heavy. And if you're not prepared, it will crush you. So life doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you're ready for. And right now, you're being prepared. Through the struggle, through the pain, through the moments where you feel like giving up. That's not punishment. That's preparation. But only if you keep going. Only if you refuse to quit. Only if you choose to see it differently. Because two people can go through the same pain. One becomes stronger. One becomes stronger. one becomes bitter. The difference? Perspective. One says, why is this happening to me? The other says, oh, what is this teaching me? And that question changes everything. Because now you're not a victim. You're a student. You're learning, you're growing, you're evolving. And negativity, it loses power over someone who is learning from pain, because now pain has purpose. And when pain has purpose, it no longer controls you. It fuels you. So the next time negativity shows up, and it will, you don't run, you stand. And you say, oh, this is making me stronger. Oh, this is building me. I will not break. That's how you respond, not emotionally, not weakly, but with strength, with control, with belief. Because belief is built in moments like these, not when everything is easy. Not when life is smooth, but when it's hard, when everything inside you says quit, and you say, oh no, that's power, that's transformation, and that's who you're becoming. Someone who doesn't fold under pressure, someone who doesn't run from pain, someone who doesn't let negativity decide their life, but someone who uses it, who turns it into fuel, who rises because of it, not in spite of it. So don't waste your pain. Don't let it turn into doubt. Don't let it turn into excuses. Turn it into action. Turn it into discipline. Turn it into discipline. Turn it into power. Because one day you're going to look back at this moment and realize this was the turning point. Not when everything got easier, but when you got stronger. And that strength will carry you further than you ever imagined. So keep going, no matter how it feels, no matter how hard it gets. Because this pain is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your power. Now it's time to get real. No more comfort, no more soft thinking, no more excuses. Because everything you've heard so far means nothing if you don't execute. You can listen to motivation all day, watch videos, feel inspired, and still stay stuck. Why? Because inspiration without action is a lie. It feels good, but it changes nothing. So right now, we shift from thinking to doing, from feeling to executing. Because at the end of the day, results don't care how motivated you are. They respond to one thing: action. Consistent, focused, relentless action. And this is where most people fail. Not because they don't know what to do, but because they don't do it. They wait, they hesitate, they overthink. They say, I'll start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. And days turn into weeks, turn into months, and nothing changes. Not because life is against them, but because they refuse to move. That ends today. You don't wait anymore. You don't delay. You don't negotiate with your mind. When it's time to work, you work. When it's time to move, you move. It's simple, not easy, but simple, because your mind will try to stop you. It will say, you're tired. You deserve a break. You can do it later, but you already know that voice is not your friend. That voice is the reason you're stuck. So you stop listening. You don't argue with it. You don't analyze it. You ignore it, and you act immediately. That's the rule now. No delay, no hesitation, just action. Because speed destroys doubt. The faster you move, the less time negativity has to grow. So you build a habit of instant action. You think it, you do it. No overthinking, no second guessing. That's how you break the cycle. Because hesitation is the breeding ground of negativity. The longer you wait, the louder it gets. So you cut it off at the source. With action. And here's the truth. You don't need to do everything. You just need to do something. One step, one move, one action, and then another, and another. That's how momentum is built. And once you have momentum, everything becomes easier. Not easy, but easier, because now you're in motion. Creates clarity. You don't figure everything out first. You figure it out as you go. For it's how real growth works. Messy, uncomfortable, imperfect, but effective. So stop waiting to be perfect. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for the right moment. There is no perfect moment. There is only now. And what you do right now determines everything. So ask yourself, what is one thing I can do right now? Not tomorrow, not later, right now. And then do it. Without thinking, without doubting. Just move. Because every time you act, you prove to yourself that you're in control. And that builds power. Real power. The kind that doesn't depend on motivation. The kind that doesn't disappear when things get hard, the kind that keeps you going, no matter what. That's execution mode. That's where you need to live now. No excuses. Not I'm tired. Not I don't feel like it. Not I do it later. None of that matters anymore. Much EOAD. Because your goals don't care how you feel. Your future doesn't care about your excuses. It responds to what you do. So you become someone who does what needs to be done every day, no matter what. That's discipline. And discipline destroys negativity. You protect your focus, you protect your energy from distractions, from excuses, from anything that pulls you backwards because you are not who you were. And you cannot afford to live like you are. So you rise daily with intention, not emotion, with direction, not confusion, with discipline, not desire. And that becomes your identity, solid, unshakable, consistent. And when life tests you, you don't break, you respond with action. Always action, always action. Because now you know that is the only language results understand. Not words, not promises, action. And you speak it every day, louder than doubt, stronger than fear, clearer than excuses, until finally your life reflects it completely. And there is no going back from that. Now you reach a new level where the fight is no longer outside, it is inside, because everything around you will try to pull you back into comfort, back into delay, back into old habits. But here's the truth you must accept now. Nothing external is stronger than your internal discipline. Not people, not circumstances, not timing, only your mind. And your mind must be trained, not motivated, not inspired, trained like a system, like a machine. Like a warrior. Because if you don't control your mind, it will control you. And a controlled mind always chooses comfort over growth, always chooses delay over action, always chooses excuses over execution. So you don't trust your feelings anymore. Feelings are temporary. They rise and they fall. But discipline stays. So you build a new rule inside yourself. I do not wait for the right feeling. I act regardless of feeling. And this one rule will change everything. Because now you are no longer dependent on motivation. You are dependent on identity, says, why am someone who acts even when tired, even when stressed, even when uncertain? You act, that is your standard. And standards define everything, not goals, not dreams, standards. Because goals can be delayed, but standards are lived daily. So you raise your standard, no more average effort, no more inconsistent focus, no more emotional decisions, only discipline, only structure, only execution. And at first your mind will resist, it will try to convince you ease, slow down. Arrest more, skip today. But you don't negotiate anymore. You already decided, and decision removes confusion. So you move, even when it feels heavy, you move. Because you understand something deeper now. Every time you overcome resistance, you get stronger. Not externally, internally. And that internal strength is what builds unstoppable people. Not talent, not luck, tolerance for discomfort. That is the real advantage. So you don't avoid discomfort anymore. You use it. You lean into it. Because discomfort means growth is happening. And most people run from growth because it feels unfamiliar. But you stay in the moment. You stay in the work. You stay in the process, because now you understand the process is the reward, not the outcome. The process transforms you, the outcome just confirms it, so you stop chasing results emotionally. You start building systems mentally, systems of action, systems of discipline, systems of consistency. And once those systems are in place, you become stable, not perfect. Stable, and stability wins long term. Because life will always change, but discipline remains constant. So when everything around you is uncertain, you remain structured. And that structure becomes your strength. Now you are no longer reacting to life. You are directing it. And that is where power begins. Not control over everything, but control over yourself. And that control is enough to change everything. So keep going. Not when you feel like it, but especially when you don't. Because that is where real identity is built. In silence, in repetition, in discipline, Nala. And you are no longer becoming that person. You are becoming that person right now. Now listen closely. because this is where most people finally change or finally quit. There is a moment in every transformation where everything feels heavier. Not because you are failing, but because you are growing. And growth always feels like pressure. Pressure on your habits, pressure on your patience, pressure on your identity. Because the old version of you is still trying to survive. It does not disappear quietly. It fights. It resists. It negotiates. It distracts you. It tries to convince you that the old way was easier. Was the problem? Easier kept you stuck. Easier kept you average. Easier kept you repeating the same cycle. So now you recognize something powerful. Every time you feel resistance, you are standing at a crossroads. One path leads back to comfort, to delay, to regret. The other path leads forward to discipline, to growth, to results. And nobody can choose that path for you. Not motivation, not advice, only decision. And decisions like this must become instant. No long thinking, no emotional debate, no waiting for clarity, because clarity comes after movement, not before it. You don't think your way into a new life. You move your way into it, step by step, action by action, day by day, and slowly something shifts inside you. You stop asking, can I do this? And you start proving, I am doing this. That shift is everything, because doubt disappears when evidence appears. And action creates evidence, not intention, not hope, action. So now your focus becomes simple. What must be done? Not what feels good, not what is easy, not what is comfortable. What must be done? And you do that. Without delay, without hesitation, without emotional permission. Because discipline is not emotional, it is structural. It is built like a system that does not break under pressure. And you are building that system now. Every time you act when you don't want to, you strengthen it. Every time you ignore excuses, you strengthen it. Every time you choose action over comfort, you strengthen it. And slowly, your identity changes. You are no longer someone trying to be disciplined. You are discipline itself in motion. And when that happens, life begins to respond differently. Because now you are not hoping for change, you are producing it consistently. And consistency is what most people never master. They start strong, but they do not continue because they rely on emotion. But emotion fades, so they fade with it. But you are learning something different now. You are learning to continue, even when emotion disappears, even when motivation is gone, even when nothing feels exciting. You continue. Because you are not chasing excitement anymore. You are building something real, something stable, something permanent. And permanent things are not built in bursts. They are built in repetition, so you repeat. Even when it feels ordinary, even when it feels slow, even when it feels unnoticed. Because repetition is where mastery lives. And mastery is what you are moving toward. Not overnight success, not instant change, mastery. And mastery requires patience. Not passive patience, but active patience, where you keep moving while nothing seems to be changing yet. That is where most people break. Right in the middle. Right before the shift. But not you. Because now you understand. The middle is the process. And the process is the transformation. So you stay in it. You stay committed. You stay consistent. You stay disciplined. Even when no one sees it. Even when nothing feels impressive. Even when progress feels invisible. Because invisible progress is still progress. And eventually, it becomes visible. So you don't stop. You don't slow down. You don't return. You move forward. Relentlessly. Because the version of you are building does not live in comfort. It lives in discipline. And you are moving toward it. Every single day. Now we reach the final point, not of this speech, but of your decision. Because everything has led here. Every word, every reminder, every push. Now there is only one thing left. Will you continue the same life, or will you finally change direction? Because change was never about information. You already had enough of that. Change was never about motivation. You already felt that too. Change was always about one thing, execution under pressure. When nobody is watching, when nothing feels exciting. When your mind is telling you to stop, that is the real moment. And that moment is now. Not later, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, now. Because life does not wait for readiness. It responds to movement. And every second you delay, you reinforce the same identity. The identity of hesitation, the identity of comfort, the identity of I'll start later. But that identity does not build anything. It only repeats the same cycle. So now you must decide, are you going to keep repeating your past, or are you going to build something new? Because you cannot carry both. The old version of you and the new version of you cannot lead the same life. One must fade, and the one you feed is the one that survives. So from this moment forward, you stop feeding excuses. You stop feeding delay. You stop feeding fear. Words, war. And you start feeding action, even small action, even imperfect action, even uncomfortable action, because action is the only thing that rewrites identity. Not thinking, not planning, not hoping, action. And once you commit to that, something powerful happens. You stop needing motivation because your identity becomes stronger than your emotion. You become someone who does not ask, do I feel like it? You become someone who asks, what needs to be done? And you do it immediately. That is the shift. That is the turning point. And once you cross it, there is no going back, because you will see something clearly. Your life was never controlled by lack of opportunity. It was controlled by lack of consistency. And now consistency becomes your weapon, not intensity. Consistency, day after day, action after action, step after step, until your life no longer reflects confusion, but clarity. No longer reflects hesitation, but discipline. No longer reflects potential, but results. And when that happens, you won't need to announce it. Your life will speak for you, quietly, powerfully, undeniably. Because real change is not loud, it is consistent. So now, take everything you've heard and reduce it to one thing, one decision, one action, one moment. What will you do next? Not later, not soon, not someday, next. Because that is where your future is hiding. By it. So, in the next action you take. So don't think anymore, don't wait anymore, don't negotiate anymore. Move and keep moving until the version of you that used to hesitate no longer exists. Only the version that executes remains. And that version will build everything you were meant to become, starting now.